Hi Sagittarius, welcome to your week ahead tarot with me, Raphael from Reydiant Reality. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Your key to the week this week is the Judgment card. Are you ready for that internal push or pull, whatever you want to call it, to make some dynamic movements forward? This is likely to be a week that it's going to feel like you've got an itch inside, not like like an actual itch. It's probably bad language, Raf, but there's gonna, like this week, you're gonna feel a really big sort of push that comes from inside to hit the ground running on something. Remember, the Judgment card, aside from all of its other meanings that I always give you, this is also a call to action. This is where something kind of says, are you ready? Like, this is the moment. You know, we always talk about waiting for the call or waiting for the push or this is that moment. Are you ready for it? Because this week you're going to be called upon in some way, shape or form, and it's up to you whether you show up, and more importantly, whether you bring your A game. And this isn't about having to be perfect or all of that stuff. It's just about having to show up. So whatever it is that's asked of you this week, you have to ask yourself, am I ready to give 110% to this? If not, don't do it. That's probably the best piece of advice I can give you. With that said, if you are a continued subby, you know Rafi loves you. And if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to like, share, and if you should so choose and it resonates, hit that subscribe button. I would like to bless my deck of cards with all forms of love, light, peace, prosperity, and abundance. And I pray that the messages that come through are ultimately clear and concise. They help you on your path to your highest vibrational good. So your your actions and options card, should I say, is the Five of Pentacles. All right, so there's one way that this might show up for you. So the Five of Pentacles can be about loss, right? And sometimes it's the financial loss card. So when people see this, they usually like, they start freaking out. What are you prepared to let go of that is too heavy, that's stopping you from reaching wherever it is that you would like to be? Something this week you are choosing to put down. This is a burden. It's something that's too heavy. Maybe even something from your past that you have assumed responsibility for. This week it's like you're literally taking that off like a mantle or a bag with rocks in it and saying, you know what? I'm going to swim instead, or actually I'm going to scale that mountain. It's like whatever you're planning or trying to do this week, you're doing it in a way that is really about the freedom that you're looking for. Because this is your options card as well, the message here is, because the Judgment card is a deeply spiritual card. Aside from all of its other meanings, it's a very spiritual energy. And you've got this with the Five of Pentacles. This week, your faith is going to be restored and renewed, but it's being done in a way that kind of sees you having to rise to the occasion. All right. Now, the funny thing is, although that card can represent, you know, slips, trips and falls and everything, I don't feel like this is you that you're mending. I feel like it's either someone or many other people. It'd be interesting to see how that shows up. For your communications and conversations, you have the Lovers card. So this with the Judgment card, a choice that you make this week, a choice or a decision that you make this week has big ripples. You're having a lot of conversations about things that you need to decide on, almost not instantly, but there is like an immediacy or an urgency about this week for you guys. There's something that needs to be attended to, and it needs to be attended to now. This is you making decisions. It's you getting clear on what it is that This is you getting clear on what it is that's being asked of you, and more importantly, what it is that you are prepared to give, especially because this Five of Pentacles, this is you kind of saying, I'm not splitting my focus anymore. I know, like this week, you will probably say to yourself, you know what, I've given enough time, effort and energy to this, and it always takes me away from this and this that I really want to be doing. Where your time, effort and energy are focused really comes under your control this week. When it comes to those of you that are studying or in some form of academia, this with the Judgment card, a lot of you are jumping ship. So let's say you started studying to, you know, you wanted to do politics, and this week you take a step back and you're like, you know what, after some really deep thought, I actually want to go and do art. There's something here where you're making a very big change to your studies, and it might shock a lot of people. You might even have some people say, well, you know, if you do that, we're going to pull our support away from you. so be it. All right, this is a week for authenticity. When it comes to those of you that are employed by somebody else, honestly, I would say, and it kind of feels like being thrust into leadership under duress. Well, there's no one else to do it. So if you don't do this, nobody's going to be steering the ship. It's kind of like, you know, I laugh about it because it's really funny in the film. If you've ever seen Taxi, there's a moment where he says, like, this guy's a really bad driver. And the reason he's a bad driver is because when he was 11, the dad, you know, put his hands on the wheel and said, right, if you don't steer the car, everybody's going to die. Hello, trauma trigger. Do you know what I mean? Like, and this kind of feels like one of those moments where an employer or a superior might be like, well, you know, if you don't do this, then yeah, there's nobody to steer the ship, and you know, things might just go tits up. Are you paying me to do this? Is this something that everybody's being asked to do? Or do you know what I mean? Like, this week you got to hold your ground. For those of you that are another way that this could show up as well, because it's the Judgment card with the Lovers card, whether you're partnered or single, an old flame, an ex-partner, etc., could all show up for you this week. For those of you that are business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, or people that work for themselves, this here is one of those moments where you kind of have to say, you know what? Yes, this client provides good money or a good income, but actually they've become really difficult to work with, and I'm sick and tired of putting up with their shit. You know what? I'm cutting that now. Fair play to you. When it comes to your those of you that are retired and no longer working, honestly, if you're partnered and married and you're no longer working or retired, it kind of feels like your significant other may need your help and support this week, potentially down to a mobility thing. For the love and relations, you've got the Hierophant card, which is literally the card of marriage and partnership. It's also the second five. 2 5s represents a vigil. This coupled with the Judgment card, for a lot of you, you're going to be in a lot of very deep thought around your relationships this week. And for those of you that are in long-term commitments, and you know, sometimes a long-term commitment is just as powerful as a marriage, right? If you've been with somebody 25 years but you're not married to them, you still carry that same kind of energy because you know that person so deeply. I've got to be honest with you, the partnership or the relationship this week is taking up a lot of thought, a lot of mental power. And because you've got this 5 of Pentacles, there might be something where you're having to show up for somebody else, but it's like almost like you're not being seen to have your own vulnerability at this time. And a good example of this would be like, you know, when you're caring for somebody that you love, but you don't want them to see you cry because you don't want that, you know, they're already not well, they're already sick, they're already whatever. And you're like, you know, I'm scared or I'm upset, and you don't want to show them that. So it's like you can't speak on your own vulnerability, but at the same time you've got a lot of internal anguish because you're having to look after this person. Not because you mind or it's a burden, but because you can't express how you actually feel. Find a really good way to decompress this week, all right? And if that means finding a quiet moment on a corner to cry, then look, 9 of Swords, then do so. So when it comes to your money and materials, the 9 of Swords, honestly, you could be seeing your finances worse than they actually are. For some of you, this could be, and I'm really sorry to say this could be an inheritance. When you gain money by inheritance, it's never a happy moment. It really isn't, unless, you know, this is like you've had a really awful history with this person, and even then it's still tainted by whatever, because that money is never going to replace or fulfill that person's place, right? So it's a potential this week. There could also be some hard conversations about financial decisions this week that have far-reaching ripples. When it comes to your physical health and vitality, aside from all the usual meanings with this, because you do have a double hit of this, I would say this week really look after your lungs and your cardiovascular system. I'm not a doctor, I can't give you medical advice. When it comes to your home and environment, this is potentially some heavy news, you know, and especially with that Judgment card. And I kind of feel like that news is what's going to be the thing that spurs you into action or says, right, okay, someone needs to step up here. I've got it. When it comes to the gaslighting shit at work, sack that. We're not about it. All right. With that said, I wish you an abundance of all of that good stuff. Navigate the week as best as you possibly can. Remember that self-care is never selfish, so look after yourself in the same breath. All right. With that said, take care and I'll see you soon.